Hey everyone, thank you for watching. Today's video is going to be a new declutter. I'm going to be starting my eyeshadow palette declutter, and kind of like how I did last time, I'm going to divide it up between affordable and then more high-end. Sorry, I just have everything on a blanket, so that's how we roll around here. But today's video is going to be my affordable brand eyeshadow palette declutter. So it's a little overview of all of these palettes, so stay tuned for part 2 that will come next month with my high-end palettes. But we definitely have a lot to work on today, and I will have my declutter playlist listed down below in case you're interested in more declutters. But why don't we go ahead and get started. Okay, so I'm just gonna start from the top and kind of work my way through. So the first palette that I put over here, this one is the Festival palette from Juvia's Place. Now, I did a video called 8 palettes that are on my chopping block because I knew the declutter series was coming up. I decided to film a couple palettes that I was considering removing from my collection. I kind of talked about why. I then did a follow-up to that one, and I used 2 of the palettes from that chopping block video, and I created different looks with them, and the Festival palette was one of those that was voted on by you guys for that video. So I'll have all of those linked down below in case you missed any of them. But I did try out the Festival palette from Juvia's Place, and I liked the look that I did. It was definitely pretty outside of my comfort zone, but I still have made the decision to go ahead and declutter this one. I am just not going to reach for this enough. I feel like I've been doing a little bit, like I've been going in a little bit harder with my declutters recently. We still have a move coming up. We are still trying to buy a house and move a couple hours away from where we live. And I'm just looking at my makeup collection and thinking like, how in the world am I going to move everything? So I'm trying to get a little bit better with my declutters. Also filming this around holiday time, so I'm feeling kind of in the giving mood to my friends, my family members, and to be able to send out some more. I like to send just like little gift packages out to, you know, subscribers or people that I see comment a lot or support a lot. And honestly, it's so funny how well I get to know people that I have certain people in mind for certain makeup items, which I think is really neat. And that's kind of what this palette falls in line with also. So even though it's a really nice palette, I really like Juvia's Place. I did just pick up the Warrior palette. You're not going to see it in here because I just got it. It's new to me, so it's not going to be decluttered. But I really do like the formula of their shadows, but there's just some palettes that for my makeup preferences, I just don't reach into a lot, and that's actually the Festival palette. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in my pass pile. Now, I also do have the Douce palette from Juvia's Place, and I really like this palette. This is probably my favorite Juvia's Place palette right now, though there's a really good chance the Warrior is going to beat that out probably, but I really, really like this palette. And even though the color scheme can kind of trip me up a little bit sometimes, I really love this kind of soft pink in here. This is a really nice soft pink shimmer that's really gorgeous. Some of these greens are really beautiful. I just like this palette so much, and I really have pretty much just since I got it. So I'm definitely going to go ahead and keep that one. I also have in here the Saharan by Juvia's Place. Now, this is a nice palette, but it's just not one that I reach for a ton. I just don't find myself going into this one a lot. So again, just trying to be a little bit more, what is the word? Brutal, maybe, with my declutters. I'm going to go ahead and put that one in the pass pile. So the Nubian by Juvia's Place, this is another one. These were like some of their first Juvia's Place palettes, and they've kind of switched to more of that 9-pan layout. This one is a really nice palette too, and it's very neutral, very nice palette, but I just do not reach for it. And I feel like it's going to be a broken record of me saying that, but especially when you start to have so many eyeshadow palettes, you know, this is really essentially only half of my collection because of my high-end palettes that are not included in here. I feel like even with older palettes, it's easy to see which ones you really love and you keep gravitating towards because you still do keep going into those. And this one I just don't reach into a lot. And like how I was saying in my chopping block video, a lot of my girlfriends, they really love very neutral kind of bronzy eyeshadow palettes. That's their preference. So when I open something like this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can make someone's holidays so happy. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in the pass pile. This one here is the Saharan 2. Oh, the packaging on these palettes are all just so beautiful. This one, okay, so I have the Saharan 2 and I still have the Masquerade Mini from Juvia's Place, and I do have the Warrior. I think I am going to decluttered this one because, again, I just am not reaching into it a ton. Some of the mattes in here are like this entire row down here is very, very dark mattes. So I don't reach into those a ton. So I'm going to put that one in the pass pile, but I do want to go ahead and keep, this is the Masquerade Mini. I do want to keep this one. This was actually my first Juvia's Place palette, and I still really do like this one. I like the kind of the mixtures in here between a neutral palette on the bottom and more of like your colorful palette on top. Keep it rolling. I have this one here from Winky Lux. This is the coffee, yeah, the coffee palette, and this is what the inside looks like. So it is a 9-pan palette. I hope the lighting is okay. I'm filming in my bedroom. I've tried filming everywhere for like collections and declutters, and the lighting is always just like not the best. I'm kind of running out of ideas, but I'm filming in my bedroom today. So we're gonna see how it goes, but hopefully it's not too bright like the last one was. But this one is, I'm not a professional over here, not a professional. This one is, like I said, from Winky Lux, the coffee palette. I actually really like this palette. I did not expect it to enjoy it as much as I did. When I opened it, I was kind of like, okay, you know, yeah, I like these tones, but how much use will I really get out of it? And I actually think it's a really, really nice palette. I do want to keep it around. I don't have a lot from Winky Lux, and this one is just a really nice, good quality palette. It definitely smells like coffee when you open it, so if you don't like really strongly scented items, you wouldn't like this one, but this is a really nice palette and more affordable, and you can find it at Ulta. So this one here is from Sleek Makeup. This is when the sun goes down. It really surprised me from Sleek Makeup of how good of quality it was. I just hadn't really tried a lot from Sleek Makeup, and they are very, very affordable. So I just wasn't really sure what to expect, but it's a really nice eyeshadow palette, and kind of the same with Winky Lux. I don't have a ton from the brand, and I really like this eyeshadow palette. I like the colors in there. There's more shimmers than anything, but again, I just want to go ahead and keep this one around. Next up here, I have this one from Mallywood. This is one of their eyeshadow palettes, the Mallywood eyeshadow palette. So inside you have 6 different shades, and then you also have a bronzer and a highlighter. And I think this palette is okay. I like the face shades more than I do the eyeshadow shades, and I felt like I couldn't come up with some good color combinations with this eyeshadow palette. I was kind of stumped a lot. This one is more of like a chunky glitter. It's a little bit harder to work with. But all in all, I didn't love this palette. They put out a face palette with the Mallywood collection, and I like that one a lot more. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in the pass pile. Next up, I have this one here from Soap & Glory. This is the Perfect 10 eyeshadow palette. I've had this one for quite some time now, and I just don't reach into it a ton. Kind of has some of those mauve tones in there. Again, a very neutral palette, nice mirror on it. Soap & Glory, I really like their body products, you know, their body scrubs, body lotions, things like that. But this palette, I've had for a while, and I just don't reach for it super often. So I'm going to go ahead and put that one in the pass pile. I have some palettes here from Bad Habit. So this is the Retro Love eyeshadow palette. So Bad Habit is kind of like the dupe brand where they dupe, you know, like high-end eyeshadow palettes. A lot of people have a lot of feelings on a brand like that. I'm just kind of somewhere in the middle. And I think kind of more what I've been thinking lately with brands like this is I don't love when they're pretty much like exact replicas. I don't mind like if it's similar, but sometimes with some palettes it seems it's just like the exact same thing. And you know, most brands change the packaging, you know, the outer packaging is supposed to be different and all of that, because this is the Anastasia Beverly Hills Subculture dupe. And in my last declutter, I actually decluttered that one and kept this one because I actually thought it was just a little bit easier to work with these eyeshadows, and I wanted to still be able to have that color scheme. But quite honestly, I don't reach into this palette a lot either. Just, you know, the color scheme isn't totally me, so I haven't reached into it a ton. But I think that's kind of where I've come to a conclusion with the dupe palettes is I don't like them to be the exact same. And I understand why people like dupe palettes, and not everybody can afford the Anastasia prices and the Huda Beauty prices and all of that. But I don't know, everybody has a lot of thoughts and everybody gets really vocal about them, but that's just kind of what I think. So I'm actually going to go ahead and declutter that one, and I think I'm going to be just fine with that decision. This one is the Bad Habit Aura palette. This is another Anastasia dupe. I want to say maybe the Prism palette, but I'm not sure off the top of my head. So this one I really don't reach into pretty much at all either. So I'm just going to go ahead and declutter that one. And then I have some more from Bad Habit. These, I believe, are the Huda Beauty dupes. So this one is the Athena palette. It is a really pretty palette. You have that kind of pressed glitter in there, which is crazy difficult for me to work with. But again, just kind of like where I'm falling right now, I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one also. And then we have the Bad Habit Aphrodite palette. So that is what the inside of this one looks like. Again, it's a really pretty palette and the quality is not bad on it, especially for it being more affordable, but it's not something that I'm interested right now in keeping in my collection, so I'm going to go ahead and be able to pass that on to someone. Alrighty, so moving on, I have from BH Cosmetics, this is the Wild Child. This is the Baked Eyeshadow Palette. You know, I just haven't reached for this one a lot. I've had it in my collection for quite some time, and I don't love, out of the BH eyeshadows, I know a lot of people really seem to love the baked formula, but I don't as much. So again, just knowing that I haven't reached for it for quite some time, I'm going to put that in the pass pile. This next one here is from Makeup Revolution or Revolution Beauty. It's the Emily Edit The Needs palette. So this one is the eyeshadow palette with also the included face shades. I really do like this palette. I know that there was like some sort of controversy around the actual eyeshadow palette, which I did not purchase, but I like this one, and it's newer to me. You know, this is a newer release, so it's a newer palette in my collection. I'm going to go ahead and keep it. I'm doing much better than I thought I was going to, but just wait, we haven't gone through Colourpop yet, so. Okay, let me grab this one here from e.l.f. So this is e.l.f. This is the Matte for Matte eyeshadow palette. Now, I've talked about the e.l.f. eyeshadows quite frequently on my channel, that they actually cause me eye irritation. I don't know what it is in these palettes, but pretty much every of the e.l.f. eyeshadow palettes like this that I have tried, I've had extreme eye irritation, eye puffiness, really haven't been able to wear makeup for a couple days, and when you film for YouTube every single day, that's not really neat. So I've tried out several of the e.l.f. palettes and they all do that. This palette is so pretty. I love the layout. I love the colors in here. I was so excited about this palette, but I cannot wear it on my eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and be able to gift that to somebody. Alrighty, so let's see. Let me grab, I have a lot of Colourpop and I have a lot of Morphe. So let me actually grab these here. These are from Pixi Beauty. So from Pixi, this is the collaboration with Dulce Candy. This was supposed to be an eyeshadow palette, and you could also use it as, you know, highlighters or, you know, shimmer blushes, whatever it is that you wanted to use it for. I really did not like this one. I remember that I reviewed it and I said it, I just felt pretty like so about it. It's called the Sweet Glow palette. I'm just not going to get enough use out of it. All shimmer anything really doesn't get me going, so I'm going to put that in the pass pile. This palette here I actually liked more. This is with Weylie, I think is how you pronounce the name. So this is a 6-pan palette. You have some mattes in here. You have some shimmers and kind of like a satiny color. This one I did like more. It's called the Let's Talk Eyes palette, but not enough that I feel like I'm going to be reaching for it a ton. So I'm going to go ahead and, again, I just feel like I can really be making the holidays a good time for some people. So I'm going to put that one in the pass pile as well. And then I have some here from Wet n Wild. So these three here from Wet n Wild, these are their, were these 10-pan palettes, I want to say? Yeah, the 10-pan palettes that came out, oh, it wasn't like super recently, but not too long ago. So this one here is the Not a Basic Peach. I believe I did review all of these on my channel and I was just pretty underwhelmed with them. Now these are very affordable palettes, which is great. And I recommend Wet n Wild for people just starting out or, you know, trying to learn or things like that. I think that they're really good palettes for that. But for what I'm looking for in my collection right now and what I prefer with my palettes, I just can't really get on with these. This one actually was quite a letdown because I feel like the pigmentation is not really there with any of these shades, especially that really beautiful blue. I was immediately drawn to that and it really doesn't extend to the eyes at all. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter that one. I know a lot of people were very excited for this palette here, which is called the Rose in the Air, because it was like a modern Renaissance dupe, and it's definitely a very pretty palette, but again, just once again, I felt like I wasn't getting a ton of pigmentation on the eyes, and just for what I'm going for, I just want something a little bit more. So even though these are super affordable, which is fantastic, I'm willing to pay a little bit more money these days to have something that's just a little bit easier for me to work with and quicker for me to work with. And I just feel like with the Wet n Wild, I just really have to build them up a lot. There's definitely people that these are going to be great for, but for me, it's just not for me. The last palette here is the Nude Awakening palette, and this one was also a pretty big letdown. My favorite out of all of them would definitely be Rose in the Air, but again, the this one is just kind of the same thing that I've been saying. So I just didn't love these palettes. I'm glad that I was able to try them, and I know a lot of people really enjoy them and they get a lot of use out of them, but for me, I'm just going to go ahead and put that in the pass pile. Next one here is from Krisanna Ann Cosmetics. So Krisanna Ann is an indie brand, but I think her prices are a little bit more affordable, so I thought I would put this in here. I didn't include any of my single shadows because I don't know, I feel like I'm slowly building up my single shadows collection, and I wasn't really sure if I should put them in here or do a separate. Maybe I'll do like a collection video sometime, but I don't really see myself decluttering a lot of my singles as of right now. But she has single shadows, and then she also has this eyeshadow palette. To be honest, I really like her single shadows more than I would the palette. I would definitely recommend checking those out. I do still like the palette though, and I would still like to be able to have this in my collection since it's the only eyeshadow palette that she has out right now. I'm a big fan of the brand. Also, like I said, I would definitely check out the single shadows. The Graces collection that just came out is absolutely beautiful, but I'm gonna go ahead and keep this in my collection. Up here, I have this one from BH Cosmetics. This is with Carli Bybel. This is the deluxe edition. I really like this palette, and I feel like this is one where I do go in and reach for it every now and again, even though it's an older palette. The highlights in here are stunning. I like these mauve shades. I like the shimmers, and Carli Bybel is one of my favorite YouTubers. I've talked about her several times on my channel, so I definitely want to keep this one in my collection. I have a couple here from Karity. So this one is the Rose All Day palette, and I really like this palette. I actually put it in a makeup monthly. I mentioned it in my favorite section. I think this is a beautiful palette and a really nice quality palette. I think that you can only find Karity on their website, but this is a really stunning palette. Like, if these are your colors and these are your tones that you like to wear, I would suggest checking this one out. So I'm going to keep this one. I will have to say though, I've also tried the Nudes and Rudes palette, which is definitely a larger palette, and you kind of have more of neutrals in here, also a mixture of matte and shimmers, and I did not like this one very much. So I was surprised at how much I enjoyed the Rose All Day, but this one, I just didn't love the quality in here, and I don't reach for it a ton, so I'm going to put that in the pass pile. Okay, so I think we have all Colourpop and all Morphe left. So Colourpop is closer to me, so I'm going to start with that. Alrighty, so this is the Very Dirty Yes Please palette. So this was the second palette that I used from my 8 palettes on the chopping block. The second one I used along with that Juvia's Place Festival palette. And you know what? I'm going to get rid of this one too. I like the look that I did with it. It was more me. It was still more of a fall look. It was definitely more toned down than the Juvia's Place. But I just don't enjoy the quality of this eyeshadow palette the way I do a lot of the other Colourpop palettes. And I know I'm going to be keeping a lot from Colourpop, so I think that I can go ahead and get rid of this one. I bought it because everybody was hyping it up, and I was like, you know what? I think it's just okay. So I'm going to declutter that one. Okay, so this one here is one of the collaborations with I Love Sarah E. This is the Cheeky palette. So you just have 4 different shades in here, but I like these so much. I believe I mentioned this one in particular in my palettes, like my favorite smaller eyeshadow palette, since that's kind of what I'm going for right now is smaller palettes, less shades, more of a color story, etc. I like this palette so much, so definitely I'm going to be keeping around this one. I also have the Perception palette. This was the collaboration with Makeup Shayla. This is a bomb eyeshadow palette. This is a great dupe for the Urban Decay On The Run palette. Like a lot of people were saying, this one seems similar to it, but this is a great eyeshadow palette. And I continue to get inspired with this palette, which I think is fabulous. So I think Makeup Shayla did a fantastic job on this one. I would highly recommend if it's still available. I don't know off the top of my head if it is, but I think it's a great palette. I'm definitely going to keep it around. Alrighty, next up I have the All I See Is Magic palette. Oh, this one is such a tough one for me, and I knew it would be. So I purchased this one and the Dream Street palette, which I'll talk about next at the same time. And I thought I was going to love the Dream Street more. I actually ended up loving this one more, but then something changed, and then I loved the Dream Street. And now I don't reach into this one as much. You know, since it does have more shades in here, what does it have? 5 times 3, 15 shades? Math is hard. Let's hope that's right. I think I'm going to go ahead and say no. 15 is not the most by any means, but again, I just don't reach into this a ton, and I think someone else can enjoy this more than I do. So I got some good use out of it, but I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to it. Alrighty, so this one is the Dream Street palette. This is the collaboration with Kathleen Lights. I believe I also mentioned this one in my small palette video, or maybe it was my best brands or my best buys at Ulta Beauty, since that one just went up. I really enjoyed this palette so much. I'm very light-handed when it comes to my eyeshadow palettes, so when I see palettes that are dirtier, I'm like, okay, I've given them given them some love. And I think that this is a great palette. I love the quality in here. I love the shades. I love that I can do really neutral looks, and I love that I can kind of spice it up if I, you know, get a wild hair. So definitely going to be keeping the Dream Street. Alrighty, so this one here is the Colourpop Double Entendre palette, which looks like this. It is a very neutral palette. I'm going to go ahead and keep this one around. I do like this one. I like the quality of it. This one also does have special meaning to me. I was actually able to do a campaign with Colourpop and Ulta Beauty, so to be able to work A, with Colourpop, but B, also with Ulta Beauty was one of the more overwhelming experiences for me. And this was the palette that I got to work with for that campaign, and Ulta posted about it. I was on the Colourpop website. It was such an overwhelming time, so I'm so silly, but I'm going to go ahead and keep this palette. I do like it, and I will wear it, but also it has a lot of special meaning to me, and I'm not ready to give that up yet. Okay, so I have the Soul and Mar palettes here. So this one here is the Mar palette, a really beautiful palette. It had some different packaging for Colourpop, but you have the 9 different shades in there. You do have a mirror. Oh, these are going to be tough. I feel like I only want to keep one between the Soul and the Mar palette, so I'm going to open up the Soul as well. And dang, this is I feel like I only need to keep one, but it's like, which one should I keep? I know I definitely have more shades like this in my collection. You know what? Yeah, I do. I have more like this in my collection, so I'm going to keep the more colorful one because this is nice. This is, you know, the good Colourpop quality, which I appreciate, but I like kind of those pops of blues in there, which I don't, you know, I definitely just have more of these like kind of warm tones, orange, red shades. So I'm going to go ahead and pass on the Soul, and then I'm going to keep the Mar eyeshadow palette. Okay, I feel good about that. Alrighty, so next up I have this one here. This was one of the first like Colourpop pressed eyeshadow palettes that I got. I know that they have shade names on the back, but I don't think this palette necessarily had a name. I think that you were just picking out shades and putting them into a palette. It was when the pressed single shadows first came out, and I like this one. I do, but I haven't reached into this one for quite some time, so I'm going to go ahead and put this one in my declutter pile. And then this one is the other one with Colourpop. This is with Sarah E. I'm sorry. I love Sarah E. This is her Saucy palette, and I really enjoy this one also. I think I'm kind of considering decluttering her 2 palettes and maybe putting them into a magnetic palette to have the 8 shades. I'm kind of considering doing that, but I really like these. I really like the shades that she chose for her collaboration, so I'm going to go ahead and keep that one. Alrighty, so next up I just have my Morphe palettes left, and then we are done. Alrighty, so let's see here. Starting off, let me start with here. So this is the 350 palette. This was a palette that I had in the chopping block video, and I mentioned that, you know, it was really hard to get this palette. It kept selling out. Everybody was loving it. I kept it around through Declutters because I was like, oh, it's good for, you know, reference. A lot of people were still asking questions for a long time. Is this a dupe to the 350, or is the 350 a dupe for that palette? Can you swatch these shades against one another? And it was really just a nice thing to have in my collection, but I think the 350 has, you know, it's past its prime right now, so I can go ahead and finally let go of the 350. It was so hard to do for a long time, but I'm going to go ahead and say goodbye to it. So next up, this one here is the 350-2, which I was very excited when this one came out, and it's a beautiful palette. I did go ahead and tape the name inserts up there. It's a beautiful palette. It is so fall. It is so warm. Stunning palette. I really enjoyed this one. I immediately liked it more than the 350. I was highly recommending it, and I still think it's a great palette. I still think it's a really solid quality palette, but I don't want huge palettes in my collection anymore. It's just not what I'm going for. So to have the 35 shades in here, I just think I can say goodbye to this. I think there will be someone who will get so much more use out of this palette, and even though, like I said, I like it, I think it's a great quality palette, but I'm trying really hard here to just be a little smarter with my declutters, and I know I haven't reached into it for a while. So I'm going to also say goodbye to the 350-2, and whoa, I can't believe I did that. Okay, for the Jaclyn Hill palette, I am going to go ahead and keep my Jaclyn Hill palette, and I kind of already had that in mind, that this was going to be the only like real big eyeshadow palette that I kept. I have said really great things about this eyeshadow palette. I really enjoy it. Yes, it does have the 35 shades, but like I said, I feel like everything else that I've been keeping so far is pretty limited in the shade numbers, which is making me happy. But I like this palette. I think the quality is fantastic. Again, I've taped the shade names up here, and also, you know, this was sent to me. This was my very first PR package from Morphe, and it was coming from Jaclyn Hill, who at the time, she was one of my favorite YouTubers. I think she was the second one I ever started watching. I learned so much from her, and I felt really special because I did learn later on that she actually, you know, had a part in picking who was getting her PR for the collection. I got her second collection, I got the brushes, and that just makes me feel really special. I think James Charles did the same thing with his collaboration that he did with Morphe. I think he had a part in choosing the PR list and deciding who it got sent to. And I just think that's a really special thing. So I cried like a baby when I got this because it was just a really special moment for me. So I'm going to go ahead and hang on to that one. Alrighty, so I also have the 24G. This is the Grand Glam palette. So this palette, you're supposed to be able to use it as eye shades and then also as face shades if you want to, so bronzers and blushes and highlighters and all of that. I know that I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. I was pretty underwhelmed with it even when I first started trying it out. I think it's an okay palette, but nothing, you know, too crazy for me. Again, you have the 24 shades, and these are all giant pan shades, very, very large, but I don't feel like I need that in my collection, so I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. Okay, so I have this one here. This is the Morphe and Kathleen Lights collaboration. Now, my beautiful friend Tinka sent this to me all the way from Italy, and I remember when she sent me that package and I opened this up, and this palette was like completely undisturbed. I was like, how in the world did that even happen? This palette also just has special meaning to me, and I really do enjoy Kathleen Lights. I don't reach into it a ton, but every time I do, I really like the eye look that I'm creating. So I'm gonna go ahead and hang on to this one for a little bit longer. Okay, these next two palettes are the 25A and 25B palettes. So this one is the A and this one is the B. And I've been looking at these palettes for a while, and I knew the declutter was coming up, and I was like, what am I gonna do? And I think I've decided that I'm going to declutter both of them. They have the 25 shades, which is larger than what I'm preferring right now, but also I know that I have a lot of girlfriends that would really get on with these palettes, and I think that they would use them a lot. I really like the quality in these. I think that they are so nice. I know that they sold out on the website. They came back. I had a wonderful subscriber named Jordan send these to me, and I hope that she won't mind that I'm gonna give them to my girlfriends because I can just see, I know exactly which one I'm gonna give them to. And I hope that she won't mind that I'm going to pass them on and let them have the love for these. But these are great palettes. I got a lot of love out of them, and I thought that they were wonderful. But I think that there's two girls who are going to be able to get a lot of use out of these. I mean, my girlfriends hit pan on their palettes, you know. So I think that they're going to really enjoy those. So I'm going to put both of those in my pass pile. Alrighty, and then the final palettes that we have left. This is the Jaclyn Hill and Morphe Vault collection. So these are the 4 smaller eyeshadow palettes that she came out with, and I don't know what to do about these, to be honest. So I don't know, because I didn't absolutely love these, but I also didn't hate them. I more hated everything that was going around with all of the drama and the scandal with the collection. It just made me really sad. So I think I'm going to go ahead and keep these around for now. I still feel like there's something else that I should be doing with these palettes too. Like there's like another video that I'm missing that I haven't done yet. I don't know what it is, but I feel like the hype kind of came and went for these palettes, but I think that I am still going to keep them around. Again, I have review videos if you're interested in checking them out. And well, I mean, I don't think I absolutely bashed the palettes, but I also didn't give them a glowing review. And I said that I would recommend the bigger palette over it. And I think I got kicked off Morphe's PR list because of that review. But they said they wanted honest reviews, and that's what I did. I don't know how else I could have handled that. But I'm going to keep these around for right now and still try to decide. These are the ones that I'm kind of struggling with, but it's kind of one of those weird things where like I feel if I get rid of one, then I don't have the vault anymore. And I don't know, I'm just going to go ahead and keep these because I want to. And that should really be the only reason. I shouldn't have to sit here and try to like justify things, but I'm going to go ahead, keep these around as well. We'll see how I do with them when the next declutter comes around and how I'm thinking about them. But that's going to be everything. So let me pull this out. I'm really curious to see how I did and the final count. Alrighty, so over here on this side are all of the palettes that I am decluttering. I believe it is 27, but I'll have the final number on the screen here as well. And then these are all of the palettes that I've decided to hang on to, and I am keeping 20. So I am decluttering more than I'm keeping. I'm feeling pretty good about that. So that is everything for today's declutter video, focusing on my affordable eyeshadow palettes. Stay tuned for my next one, which will be the high-end palettes. And I hope that you guys enjoyed this declutter. I'd love to know what you thought in the comments down below. Again, you can check out my declutter playlist if you want to see more from me. I hope you guys will give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed a new declutter. I hope that you also consider subscribing before you go, and I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.